Hello and welcome to the show. On today's episode, I'm going to make a summary of a session that I handled yesterday in collaboration with Edoofa. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Edoofa is EDOOFA. Now, what they are, okay, well, it's hard to explain, but they're sort of like a student exchange program. They are based out of India. They have physical campuses in India, and the goal is to improve access to qualitative education, not just for India but for people on the African continent. So it's a student exchange program in the sense that people come from Nigeria, from Gambia, from Zimbabwe, Kenya, all over the place. They go to these Indian campuses where they get to take certain they get to have a world class education. And then, because India is the outsourcing capital of the world, they also get to practicalize the things that they work on. Because after study sessions, they get to do work. What's that word called? Remote, yes, they get to do work remotely for people internationally. So they are exposed to world class education, and then they're also exposed to world class working demands. And so that's the whole point of Edufa. So the benefit is, of course, people get to travel, and then the exposure that you get by working for people on an international scale, not the kind of experience that you would get if you were to stay in Nigeria and try to work in Nigeria or work in your home country. So you could think of it in a sense of the same thing that Nigerians have already done anyway, which is you go to the UK, you're getting access to a world-class education, and you get to work on your time off to pay your school fees and then things like that. But the difference is just that now this sort of education is not going to cost you an arm and a leg if you go with Edufa. And then the opportunities that you're going to get for work are going to be much more varied, since the whole point of, okay, well, not the whole point, since India has a reputation for outsourcing high quality skills, you're going to be able to have access to the international market. And of course, it's a new way of thinking and a new way of working for those of us over here on the African continent, because you can't exactly say that Nigeria or Zimbabwe or South Africa is the outsourcing capital of anything. Anyway, so we put together a series of webinars. There are going to be 4 of them this month of September. Yesterday, we did the first one on entrepreneurship, why you should give it a try at least once. And so this is going to be a summary of all the things that we discussed there, so that for the folks who came late, regrettably, it was very late by Nigerian standards, even though, Indian time, even though by Nigerian time it was 5 p.m. I think for them it was well into the night. I think that was already 9 p.m. or closer to 10 p.m. So, not everyone able to make it. So, this is a summary session for those who couldn't make it, for those who came late, so they could get a sense of all the things that we spoke about. Especially since in my training sessions, I am famous, or should I say, I'm infamous for not using any material. So I don't do slides, I don't do anything like that. I come, I speak extemporaneously. Sorry, forgive me. So I speak extemporaneously, I shoot from the hip, and then I leave. So that's the reason why I make all these audio summaries. So that for people who are not there and who don't have a PDF or a PowerPoint to read, excuse me, to refer to, you have these audio episodes that you can refer to. So hopefully, I've been able to explain what Edoofa is. For those of you who are Edoofians, that's what they call themselves, I think. That's people who are part of the Edoofa program. So Edoofians, if I didn't explain what Edoofa is correctly, then please, in our interactions later on in the webinars, then please, correct me, bring me up to speed so I can give the rest of the world a proper picture about what Edoofa is. So, of course, I introduced myself to them as a sales coach and business consultant, host of this show, which you're currently listening to, which is the Sales for the Nigerian Business Person podcast. And as we're going for over 3 years, we have over 690 episodes. We're getting close to that 700 mark. And by the end of the year, we might hit that 1,000 mark if I'm able to keep recording regularly as I'm supposed to. And then, of course, I expose them to the main thesis that I have behind this podcast, which is that most people are starting businesses or entering into self-employment without learning key skills, without learning critical skills that are necessary for personal growth and necessary for business growth. And just in case you haven't figured it out, for me, that key skill is personal sales, personal selling. Now, the skills that are necessary for personal growth also happen to be the key things that we are discussing in this webinar. And that's also the main reason why I think everybody should try entrepreneurship at least once, especially Edoofians. You guys have already taken this step. You've moved to a new country. You're trying a new way of work and you're learning in new environments. You might as well just try this new experience if you haven't done it before. And that is because in running the business, you're going to be exposed to certain skills. You're going to be exposed to certain situations that will have you build certain skills that will also parlay well into other endeavors that you try to do later on in life. Whether you work for somebody's business, whether you become a politician, whether you become a family man, a leader in your community, or whatever it is. So, the structure of the webinar was this. I gave a brief expose on my ideas, and then I opened up... Sorry, one moment. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. My family just needed my attention for a brief while. So where was I? Okay, yes. So I gave a brief expose on what my ideas were, and then I opened up the floor to question and answer. Yeah, originally I thought, well, anyway, let's just forget about how things went. I opened it up to question and answers, and my co-moderator, Anik, and I, we tried to get through as many questions as possible. Unfortunately, we were not. But then I took a screenshot of questions. I think we must have had maybe about 20, let's say 25. That's just my guess. I haven't counted them from the screenshot. But I think I only was able to answer maybe 10 or 12 questions then. But I'm going to make podcast episodes to address all the questions that people came up with. So Edoofians who happen to be listening to this episode and the other episodes that you're going to listen to, don't worry. Questions that were not addressed live are going to be addressed over here so that you can get to share from the curiosity of others. So the first thing I did was to define entrepreneurship because after all, I'm making the argument that everybody should try entrepreneurship at least once. And I didn't bother to define it because, well, first off, it's not an English word. It's French in origin. And there are lots of sexy and popular connotations for entrepreneurship out there. So the definitions for entrepreneurship are really, really wide. People define it any number of ways. So I didn't bother. Take whatever definition you like and run with it. Because my preferred definition of entrepreneurship is less sexy and probably doesn't vibe with, the whole Zuckerberg and then this guy, what's his name, Travis, the Uber guy, It's probably too dumbed down for folks like that. It's not as sexy. So you can have whatever definition it is that you like for entrepreneurship. However, there's one thing that you're going to find in common with all the definitions, whether it's people who pick boring definitions like me or people who look for all those superstar rock stars out there and and choose to define those as entrepreneurship. Sorry, forgive me for my voice. It's been a tough couple of days. Consulting, speaking, webinars, all that. So my voice is short. I think now is the time for me to take, what's it called? Voice coaching. Yeah. Since my voice is becoming a tool of my trade, I should take voice coaching. So where was I? Yes. So you will find that no matter the definition of entrepreneurship that is out there, usually the emphasis is on problem solving ability when it comes to business functions. So whether you look at the more sexy names in entrepreneurship out there, like Mark Zuckerberg, or like Bezos, or like the Rocket Man, what's his name, Elon Musk, or whoever is the star entrepreneur in your own country, you'll find that no matter how boring, or no matter how sexy they are, no matter how adventurous, or no matter how boring they are, you'll find that there's an emphasis on problem solving when it comes to entrepreneurship. And I think that's what differentiates entrepreneurship from other aspects of business activity. Because in this part of the world, Nigeria, South Africa, what else? Mozambique, Kenya, whatever. When we were taught business education in school, since there was no entrepreneurship, in quotes, around at the time, most of the moguls and the people that we were taught about in business studies and those sorts of things and in history were actually the capitalists. So, entrepreneurship, that's what's happening now. Capitalists, those are the people who came prior. Now, the capitalists, they were marked by a certain kind of skill, and that skill is their ability to mobilize large amounts of capital, large amounts of finance, large amounts of labor and machinery to get the job done. So all those oil magnates, those shipping magnates, those diamond magnates, for those of you in South Africa, you know, that old crop of folks, and we have some of them who are still around and alive with us today. That's one of the reasons why some people will not call the Nigerian businessman Dangote. That's why they will not call him an entrepreneur per se. People would rather call him a capitalist because that seems to be his overriding skill. He gets large amounts of people, large amounts of capital, large amounts of machines, large amounts of raw materials, large amounts of, you name it, and they get the job done. Producing factories, producing, engaging in mining operations in your country, things like that. So those people are referred to as capitalists because their skill is mobilizing capital. That's why they're called capitalists. Different from entrepreneurs. So, entrepreneurship is also different from other skills like investing or trading or finance, blah, blah, blah. And those ones are also about moving capital, but also have to do with more about inventory allocation or stock allocation. So, traders, inventory. I have 50 pieces of this. I've sold 6 and they're going to expire in 6 months. How do I get rid of the rest? And then for stock traders, it's the same. Stock allocation. What is hot right now? What is not? Where's the demand where's the demand? Let's see, what else? I mean, you get the whole idea. So entrepreneurship is problem solving, essentially. Yes, you can incorporate all those sexy ideas around Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, Facebook guy, Steve Jobs, Apple guy, or whoever the person is in your country. You can you can incorporate all those sexy elements if you want. But essentially, without problem solving, there's no entrepreneurship. Whether you're a boring guy on this end of the spectrum, or whether you tend to be the much more sexy, out there, messiah-like person like Steve Jobs. So, now, why should everybody try entrepreneurship at least once? I mentioned in the early part of the podcast is because when you try entrepreneurship, there's a certain skill set that is required for you to be successful at it. And if you're able to master those skills, the skills are going to carry on into other endeavors of your career or other endeavors of your personal life, like personal leadership in the community. So that's the reason why everybody should try entrepreneurship at least once, in a nutshell. Because to be good at entrepreneurship, you're going to have to learn certain skills. If you learn those skills, they're going to be useful in your future careers, in your future businesses, and in your personal leadership in the home, in the community, in the country, in the company, in the wherever you are. So entrepreneurs have to become very good at 2 main business functions that have been identified by Professor Peter Drucker. He's an old American management consultant. I really should check if the guy is dead. I wouldn't be surprised if he's dead by now. Anyway, I should confirm because I quote him a lot, and I don't know his status, whether he's alive or not. For those of you who already know the answer, please don't judge me harshly. I read his books a very long time ago, and I just never bothered to check. So the 2 business functions that Professor Drucker identifies are number 1, marketing, and then number 2, innovation. Now, people talk about innovation as a business function all the time, so we're going to ignore the skills that you pick from there, and we're going to focus on marketing. Now, marketing is the business function of creating a customer where you didn't have one before. So an example that I gave to people during the session was the wedding photographer who is looking for people who have idealized expressions for how they want their wedding day to look. So that's part of the marketing function. I've got my camera, I've got the studio space, I've got the computer, I've got the car, I've got the second shooter, but I don't have a customer. Marketing means I have to create a customer, make people appear out of thin air and become my customers. And it's the same. for communities like in Nigeria, there are places where we have village loan sharks. The village loan shark is doing the same thing. He's looking for people that have restricted access to finance in the formal sector, and then he's trying to capitalize on that, he or she. Because I've heard of some village loan sharks that are women. So that's the problem that they're solving. There's no access to finance. They give poor people access to finance. They just charge outrageous rates. And that is why being a loan shark is bad. So it's a Nigerian problem. It's also an Indian problem. Loan sharks, that's bad. What else? So same thing with the guy for Apple computers. The problem that they're solving, people who want access to who want accessible and stylish access to computing and the internet. So that's Apple computers, or at least early on. So anybody who engages in entrepreneurship or business or self-employment has to be either good at the marketing function or has to learn the marketing function. Now, the marketing function has many famous elements. There's advertising. Everybody knows advertising. Everybody knows public relations. Everybody knows content marketing. Everybody knows direct marketing. Everybody knows merchandising and all those other things. Those aspects of marketing, those are already famous. But today, I'm going to be looking into personal selling, which is a little less known aspect of marketing. Personal selling is when people have one-to-one communications between a buyer and a seller. It's also a skill that is involved in mentor-mentee relationships because you're talking one-on-one. And it's also involved sometimes in fundraiser, investor, or venture capital relationships because you're there trying to pitch your idea to your investor, and your investor or the venture capital person is trying to influence you about which way your business should go. Where you can see how personal selling skills start off on the marketing end, and that persuasive bent can translate into other aspect. So personal selling, everything is personal selling, whether it's a product or a service or your initiative, because you're trying to get in from buying from people. You're trying to get buy-in from people so that both of you can align your goals. And you can see that this skill, personal selling, is going to translate whether you're the head of a department in the office, because you have the corporation's goals, and then you're trying to align the corporation's goals with the employees of the organization. And it's the same thing with the pastor. The pastor has his personal goals, and he has the goal of what he thinks is the mission of God, and he's trying to align all those things: his own personal mission, the mission of aligning moving forward the word of God, and then the congregation's mission, because they want salvation, or they want health and wealth and happiness or whatever. So the difference between marketing and personal selling is this: marketing is when you broadcast to the whole world using either traditional media or social media. So all that broadcasting you do is mostly marketing. Personal selling is when you have one-to-one communications and you're trying to move the thing forward. So if I do Facebook advertising, that is marketing. But when people come to my Instagram handle and send me a message to say, Tavishima, good morning, I would like to buy 5 pajamas for my children, assuming I sell pajamas, and then I reply back to that message, we start chatting, that is personal selling. So that is the difference. So personal selling skills are going to carry you far, whether you interact with friends or family, associates, you do different business endeavors, whether you run an NGO, whether you do charity work, or whatever it is that you do. And for me, that's the reason why we should all engage in entrepreneurship at least once, because entrepreneurship will force you to be good at personal selling. Personal selling is going to make you much better as a family man, much better running your NGO, much better being the head of department in your office, much better as your pastor, much better as your community chief, much better as a politician, much better as a person of influence in wherever it is you work or wherever it is you live. And that, in summary, is my main thesis. Personal selling is going to require you to find or learn another smaller subset of skills, and that is learning how to find problems in the market, discover market opportunities, or things that people find valuable. Then you also have to learn how to understand value. That's a technical term. Understanding value just means learning to listen to other people, listen to customers in the market, listen to the person you're talking to right now, to see what the people actually care about. Which leads us to the next, which is communicating value, which is when you understand what people actually need, you're now able to tell them, oh, look, this is the value that my product or my service provides This is how it's going to be beneficial to you. This is why you should use this product. This is why you should use this service. So communicating value is telling people clearly how your product or service works, how it helps them to solve their needs. The example that I gave to the Edoofians who were listening to me last night was the fellow who reached out to me on LinkedIn and wanted to sell me on CV writing services. CV, that's curriculum vitae or a resume. That is the key document that you use to sell yourself to an employer. It says, this is you, this is what you're about, this is your work history, this is your personal history, this is your academic history, this is why it's a good idea for the person to hire you to work in their organization. So that's it. Now, the fellow kept trying to educate me about how CVs were important, and I engaged, and I told him that, look, if you have a look at my LinkedIn, you will see that I've not had a job in 2 decades. What makes you think that I need a CV? A CV is to sell myself to an employer. I have no employer as of now, so why would I need a CV? Then the person started trying to spin it about how CVs can help boost your business, and at that point I just ignored the fellow, because I really don't see how getting a CV is going to help me grow my business. Funny thing is, he might actually be right, but since he didn't start off listening to me to figure out what my problem was, he didn't get the chance to explain how using a CV can help me build my business. And by the way, I'm still not convinced. Edoofians, if you think building a CV can help you build your business, then the next time we have an engagement, let me know. Explain it to me. But I was just done. Like, this guy's not listening. I'm not talking to him anymore. So, understand value. Listen to folks. Know what they find value, and then communicate the value. You can now see, oh, this is how it applies. So the fellow had started the conversation by saying, hey, have you dusted off your CV? Why don't you need a CV? What are your plans for your business? All those kinds of general questions. Who would have been able to say, oh, okay, even though most people think CV means employment, actually CV can actually equal business growth, and this is how. So would have had a much more useful conversation with the person that started off trying to understand value. So now you can see how personal selling skills are important to grow your business if you sell CV writing services. If you don't get good at personal selling, you are not going to become good at selling your CV writing services. So the other skills that are required in the entrepreneurial journey, you have to learn professionalism, you have to learn communications, you have to learn networking. Some people ask questions about networking and we didn't get to that. And all these things also carry on well into other careers, other businesses, other personal leadership positions, politics, pastoral work, etc., etc., etc. So that's the main reason why we should involve ourselves in the entrepreneurial journey, especially those of you Edoofians, because entrepreneurship is going to force you to learn how to sell. And selling, persuasion, communication, that is going to translate into other aspects of your life. It's going to force you to become professional. It's going to force you to become good at networking, and it's going to force you to become good at communications. And that you can leverage into your future career, into your future business, into your family, into your community life, into politics, into whatever it is that you want to do. So that's the main reason why everybody should get involved in entrepreneurship at least once. Taste it, learn from it, and you are not going to be disappointed with the lessons that you learn. Now, we're going to talk about more other stuff like this because we have future webinars that we have lined with Edoofa. Like I said, it's going to be for the month of September. It's going to be all about skills for the student community in Edoofa over there in India. So we have 3 or 4 more webinars that have been lined up. So expect more summary episodes in the next coming weeks. And that's it pretty much. If I've left anything out, it will be there in the next summary session. So Edoofians, I hope you guys have gotten some good stuff out of this summary that I've done so far. At the next webinar, I'll try and make sure that the discussion, or rather that the presentation part is going to be brief, maybe 10-15 minutes. Let's see how we can use 45 minutes at most to get into people's questions. So that's it, folks. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you guys at the next episode.